Next time on Philosophy Talk, Camus and the Absurdity of Life.
KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com.
Travel is one of life's great rewards, and there's always something new to see and experience when you travel the world like I do. Hi, I'm Rick Steves. Join me as we get better acquainted with the world each week on Travel with Rick Steves. Together, we'll explore fascinating sights, discover amazing food, and make new friends from near and far. Your radio is the only passport you'll need. Join us for Travel with Rick Steves, Saturday afternoons at 1 on KSJE.
KSJE is proud to support the Farmington Museum, featuring the exhibit Inside Out, on display now through January 17th. Inside Out explores the perceived roles of women in American society as they've changed over time, and the feminist ideas and movements since the nation's earliest days, and traces the silhouette of stylish American women over the centuries. Find out more at the Farmington Museum, 3401 East Main Street, or at fmtn.org/museums. "11 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Monday morning, November 9th. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE, 90.9 FM over the air in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and of course we're streaming everywhere through our website. Just go to ksje.com and click on Listen Live. This is also a visual radio program, so we welcome our viewers who are joining us this morning by watching us on the KSJE YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our Twitter account. Welcome aboard, everyone. We are glad that you are with us as well this morning. Coming up in the next few moments, I'm going to be talking about Childhaven, the wonderful organization here in San Juan County, the Childhaven Foundation and the Childhaven Shelter. That and much, much more coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE, so please stay tuned for that. Then next hour, of course, Megan Cullip will be joining me here in Studio A. It is our local community information program about COVID-19. It is streaming live at 9 a.m. this morning to our Facebook and YouTube pages, also our Twitter account as well. And this morning, our guests will be Jeff Bourgeois, the CEO and president of San Juan Regional Medical Center. We'll get an update on hospital conditions here in San Juan County. We also have a scheduled guest from the New Mexico Environment Department about their watch list that is being updated every day and is affecting businesses throughout the state, of course, under the new public health orders announced by the governor just a couple of weeks ago. So I hope you'll join us for that conversation. It is coming up this morning live, as I said, at 9 a.m. on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Rebroadcast this afternoon on KSJE Radio at 5:06, and of course online, ksje.com at 5:06 p.m. On the radio side of things at 9 a.m., Mick Hess is going to take us roving with the arts, and this morning Mick is featuring music from Igor Stravinsky. You'll hear that this morning a little after 9 on KSJE Radio and online. Don't forget, of course, we invite you to connect with us on our social media platforms that include Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. Let's talk about the weather forecast. We do have some weather outside this morning. Some snow showers in the area today. We're expecting those to be off and on today, but temperatures will warm up to about 40 degrees, maybe some partly sunny conditions later on this afternoon. And overnight tonight, mostly clear with a low of 21. Sunshine returns in force tomorrow with a high of 42. On Tuesday, a low of 18 with a clear Tuesday night. Sunny and 44 on Wednesday, an overnight low of 24. Partly sunny skies for Thursday and Friday with a high in the mid to lower 50s, and maybe another chance of snow showers in the region coming in on Saturday with a high of 51 and an overnight night low of 31 degrees. And of course, we always tell you that visual radio can take you places. We'll not go too far start today just outside to show you the current conditions here at San Juan College from just a few moments ago. 31 degrees in Farmington at the moment at 14 minutes past 8 o'clock. You can see the snow showers that are falling here at San Juan College, but of course the roads and the parking lots just wet at the moment this morning. Let me introduce my guests who are joining me this morning, talk a little bit about Childhaven with the Childhaven Foundation. Andrea Pena is joining us this morning via Zoom. Good morning, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's great to be here.
Good to see you. And also Liz Madsen is here. She is the Director of Child Welfare at the Childhaven Shelter. Liz, good morning to you. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good to see you and have you with us, both of you. So thanks so much. And let's get started by talking a little bit about the shelter at Childhaven, because I think that's what the organization is maybe most known for. And Liz, you and I were talking just before we started here that you are relatively new to the job. You started maybe how many weeks before the COVID hit us in March?
3 months.
Okay.
About 3 months before COVID hit. So I haven't been here quite a year, and it's been a busy one.
I imagine it has. And so talk to me a little bit about how COVID has changed a little bit about what we understand happens at the Childhaven shelter. Obviously, the main mission is still the same, right? Is to bring children in who are dealing with a situation of abuse or neglect, things like that?
Yes, we never really stopped doing intakes throughout, even when everything sort of shut down. And you know, when the governor went ahead with the shutdown here in New Mexico, you know, my staff, of course, was essential staff. We had children that needed care. We had a shelter full of kids, and we continued to take children in throughout this pandemic. So I can't say enough about the devotion of the people that work at this shelter. You know, we had staff that, you know, everyone was, of course, as should be, scared and going through personal, you know, issues with maybe family or extended family, actually, you know, catching this virus. We had, unfortunately, some staff that lost family to come to work every day and make sure that the children here had every single thing that they need. So the devotion that the staff has shown to Childhaven and has been something that, you know, I don't know that I ever would have really grasped how devoted everyone here is to what we do.
Sure.
It was amazing to see.
Right. What dedication, right, to their mission and the mission of Childhaven and the jobs that they all do.
Right. Yeah, it's been something. And they continue every single day with this new wave that we're having. You know, that fear is still, of course, there. You know, when we take in a child, sometimes they do come from unfortunate situations where maybe they haven't really been quarantining or maybe as careful as we would all hope, you know, everyone is being with their children. And so, you know, we really have to, they're risking their health and their family's health by making sure that they come to work every day. And we are definitely, immediately the CEO and I were able to put in some policies and procedures here to keep everyone as safe as possible. And that has thankfully worked very well.
Very good. Well, that's going to be my next question, a little bit about what types of things do you have to do when you're dealing with a shelter situation with a lot of people under one roof and staff and making sure everyone is safe as they come and go. So I imagine there are a whole new set of rules to follow there at the Childhaven shelter.
For sure. There's no, you would think there kind of is. This is the second shelter that I've run. And, you know, when I started hearing about this virus when it was in China in December, I started thinking, wow, that's not a scenario we've ever had to really run through. What is a policy for a global pandemic? And so there really was no game book. And so our CEO, Aaron, and I really had to sit down and sort of look at how are we going to do this and keep the doors open and keep the kids and the staff safe. And, you know, I work with really talented people, and Aaron is one of them. She's extremely devoted to what we do here. She was in, you know, with me from the beginning. We're going to figure this out. And we did. We had to sort of just pull, you know, everything we could from the Department of Health. We have regular weekly meetings with the state of New Mexico regarding, you know, how to best keep people safe and what the parameters need to look like. Our staff, you know, they all wear their masks. We were lucky enough with Andrea's help to get a lot of PPE donations and, you know, other avenues of getting that protective equipment to make sure that staff is safe. And, we started doing regular temperature checks, I think before anyone was even talking about doing temperature checks. We just wanted to be, as safe as possible, and we've been very blessed that that has worked.
Sure. Very good. And I know, Andrea Pena, I know this is an important part of your job, too, is to be able to have those things when the employees need them, PPE notwithstanding, and whatever else may be needed to get them paid for and brought into the shelter. And then fundraising, of course, and other things that we'll be talking about is maybe secondary at this point.
Yes. So, at the beginning of the pandemic, when things really started shutting down, and the basic necessities of bread and toilet paper
Yes.
towels. Before the pandemic, we had some really great community people helping with some food needs that we had at the time with a parent education class. And anyways, things like that had changed, but we already had that type of connection. But we had to kind of stop all of those types of donations just because of the pandemic. But we were able to have restaurants, or if somebody wanted to deliver by DoorDash or something like that, order food for the kids in the shelter while things were kind of getting, resolved with just basic things, like I said, like bread coming in. And we had a local restaurant who made bread, give some to us. And that's a small example of the kindness of our community during that time. So my job is relatively easy in the sense of when there is a need, there are so many people willing to give. And it can be as small as a post on Facebook and we get quite a few things, or just connections that we've already had with our organization, giving people a call, and usually right away we can get what we need to make sure that the kids are okay.
Very good. That's terrific. And, of course, Liz Madsen, you were talking a little bit about meeting with Aaron Hurahan, the CEO of Childhaven, and coming up with policies and things like that to deal with this pandemic that, as you mentioned correctly, we've never seen really before, at least not in our lifetimes. Nobody, I don't think, was around in 1918. But to do that and to be able to then, I guess, with the evolving information, because back in March we knew some things about COVID, and then we've learned more as our hospital and medical folks have learned more about the infection rates and how things are spread and all that. So I imagine those conversations were kind of evolving for you and others there at the shelter.
It's weekly. We have a state call every Friday that Aaron and I both participate in, and we learn new information. They often have DOH on that call. So this is something we make sure we are on top of every single day. So we'll do that phone call. We'll find out if there's anything new, on the horizon, or anything new that's coming in, what the best practices are. And you're right, they're evolving. They change quite frequently. So as soon as we, hear from them what our next steps need to be, we go ahead and we move into that direction. So we've been able to stay on top of it, and really there's a lot of teamwork that goes behind housing. We're up to 32 kids we can house here. 30 plus staff people, and then up to 32 children. And, another thing that really a lot of shelters weren't prepared for is the homeschooling of these kiddos. I know that parents out there that are having to currently homeschool their children when they weren't before, it's a challenge. And those are parents that maybe have 1, 2, 3 kids at home. We've got, currently we've got 11 that are participating in homeschooling. And so that's a new challenge that staff had to sort of look at and tackle as best we could. And we have some that have just really are shining stars in this. They just kind of took the lead and made these schedules and all of these Zoom meetings that everybody has, and to keep everybody on. And I'm really proud of the fact that we did just get report cards here and everybody did very well. So
that's great.
Very proud of staff and the kids.
That's great news, and congratulations, because you're right. That's a whole new level, maybe, of engagement for your workers to help these children who are in your shelter. And we know you take in children from birth to, I think, 17, 18 years old, right?
18, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
So
and
that's all ages.
There's some situations where that could be even later, but currently, we've got the whole gamut here. We've got, I think, our youngest is 6 months, and our oldest right now is maybe 15. So if that gives you an idea, we've got some in daycare, and we've got the rest of them attending school, and covering pretty much every grade.
Wow, there you go. And what is your census at the shelter these days? You mentioned the maximum capacity you can
Right.
house there, but how are things looking right now?
We have 12 that have been here for a while, a couple of larger sibling groups. And that, we have been seeing that need sort of spike when everything was shut down, and, CYFD and some of the other social services groups, we know that unfortunately abuse continues to happen, but when children aren't going to school, there's not teachers and neighbors to report that perhaps there's something going on in this child's life. So those numbers we weren't getting as many referrals, which was concerning because we knew that was still happening. But we have seen an uptick lately with requests and with referrals. And as long as we can take a child, we take them.
Sure.
And unless there is some reason that we absolutely couldn't, we take every child.
Right. Very important. And so we're displaying a couple of photos that you sent to us from Childhaven about the shelter, of course. And I think, as I mentioned, that is, I think, what Childhaven is best known for, but it certainly has a lot of other things that Childhaven does in our community. But you mentioned kind of the age range, and so you've got to deal with newborns and babies and toddlers and teens and tweens and everything in between, right?
We do. Yes, we do. And staff is phenomenal. We really try to identify where everybody's everybody's kind of got their niche, and we've been able to do that with staff. And we have the ones that are excellent with babies in daycare, and we have the ones that, maybe are homeschooling their own kids at home, are helping with the homeschooling here. And so we've sort of found this schedule in the middle of this chaos that is working. And I'm just so grateful for the people that I have that are putting in so much work here.
Right. We're looking at one of the rooms, I think, at the shelter, of course, and so everybody has a roommate or sharing a room, right?
If we can have them separate, we do. Oftentimes we do get sibling groups that want to be in the same room, and if we can do that, we do that as well. Our bedrooms are typically 2 to 3 beds. Our nursery, we have an actual nursery that has a few cribs and some toddler beds in there. If we can keep a sibling group together, and they want to, we do sometimes get sibling groups that do not want to share a room with their sibling. So we try to make everyone as comfortable as they can. And Andrea helped with getting community outreach as far as redoing those rooms. If you see, a lot of those rooms were adopted by community members, and they're beautiful. Most shelters do not have rooms that look the way the rooms here do.
Very true. Andrea Pena, I imagine you can add a little bit to that as we and the furnishings in these rooms. A lot of very generous businesses and individuals and families maybe who have helped make that possible, right?
It's incredible, Scott. The pictures that I sent you, those are some of my favorite ones. And there was one room I remember, it was a teen girl who really wanted to do something, and her parents helped her get the plan together and design how the room was going to look, and probably help financially with that. And they donated those things for that room and their time to make it beautiful. And one of the things that we're really passionate about, at Childhaven, is making it feel like home for the kids and not being something that's so institutionalized and completely dorm style. We want it to feel like a home for them, in a place that they feel safe and comfortable. So community members, even a community teen who just wanted to do good, is an example of just our community and the people here. And we've had businesses donate time and resources to make other rooms look beautiful.
Very true. Well, I'm not surprised, knowing this community as we do, that folks would step up to make that happen. And Liz Madsen, I know as well, you mentioned all the different age groups that you have, and everybody, I imagine, has some chores to do too there at Childhaven when they are there. So everybody kind of pitches in to help out.
They do. And, one of the things we also keep in mind is, teaching these kiddos life skills. Mm-hmm. For instance, they do their own laundry. They all have chores that they help participate in. We are blessed that we have several male staff members, which sometimes isn't that often in shelters. A lot of women are more drawn to sort of this aspect of this job. And they help with outside chores. Sometimes they'll team up with a few of the younger boys, and they all head out and they'll start cleaning through gear and tightening spokes on bicycles, and just sort of always teaching. It's always a teaching environment, and we do very much like to keep it like a family situation.
Very
sure.
Sure, very true. I want to show another picture. Speaking of bicycles, this is a picture of maybe the backyard there at Childhaven. It looks like you have a whole gaggle of tricycles there parked at the building, and
we keep them as busy as we can.
Yeah.
One of the challenges with COVID, we are not able to do the outings that we were able to do before. We like to take the kids, to the movies or bowling or any of those normal sort of outings that
Sure.
we would do weekly. And so now it's in the shelter or it's in the backyard, and we keep that backyard as nice as we can, and they love being outside. True.
I imagine that's true. And so it's important to have enough for everybody, right? So that everybody can be out at the same time or relatively at the same time, and getting rid of some of that childhood energy that I wish I still had.
Right. We all do.
Right. So there you go. And so Andrea Pena, let me turn to you a little bit about your efforts now, as we've talked about the shelter, and I've said that's just one of the many umbrella programs and organizations that fall under Childhaven that help in our community. But your job has been kind of to help raise money and to find money for programs at Childhaven, because maybe your traditional funds have not been as high as they were before COVID, and there's other maybe COVID specific funds that are now available, and it's really kind of a juggling act to try to find out where to apply and how to make best use of some of this money that you can only use for certain things, right?
Yes. Grant funding is great, but it can be very tricky and have a lot of restrictions to it and requirements. And there's a lot of staff time that often has to go into getting those done well and make sure that they're being applied well. And we're very fortunate that we do have staff that manages those grants very, very well. But with COVID, there is just that not only extra need, we talked about at the beginning of the pandemic, there was that need for some physical items that people responded to. But we see a service like Childhaven, which would be labeled as essential. And I know some people feel like that term was maybe overused a little bit, but truly an essential service that could not stop doing what we're doing no matter what the scenario, no matter what's happening in the world, we have to continue on. And it really just emphasized how important our services are. So Liz is here, and I'm so thankful she was able to come on and talk about the shelter and give more detail to that program. We also have a Children's Advocacy Center, which is nationally accredited, and it's actually really, really great that we have one here locally. There wasn't, we call them, Children's Advocacy Centers through NCA, National Children's Alliance, I believe.
Right.
There weren't those in really each region of New Mexico until recently. We've been advocating for that and working with the state, with another association we're a part of, to make sure that kids have that resource throughout. But that's something that Childhaven really led an effort on to help New Mexico as a whole and children in our state. Our CASA program, which I know CASA comes on to KSJE to talk about their volunteer program frequently. That's another national program that we have here under our umbrella at Childhaven. We have a treatment foster care program, and we are recruiting now for foster parents. We really need foster parents to come be a part of our program and help these kids as they're maybe going possibly from even the shelter into the foster care program and continuing within our services. And Liz mentioned the life skills program, and we have a parent education program. So there's a lot happening here, and it does take money. And, as a nonprofit, it can seem like money shouldn't be, part of the conversation, but it has to be, because we need to provide not only the quality facilities that are needed to help kids in these situations, but also quality staff, and make sure they have the training that they need and the resources available, so that when kids are in this situation, we can apply our mission of lifting children from crisis to hope, and we can change their story from this trauma that they're experiencing. And not that we're changing our story, I shouldn't say it like that, but giving them the tools that they need so that they can find success in their lives. And again, that mission of lifting children from crisis to hope.
Very true. That's very true. And so in that regard, then, you are getting ready for what is Childhaven's, I think, largest fundraiser of the year, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it is this year, and that is your Pledge for Children campaign, which will be starting up very soon, correct?
Yes, so the Pledge for Children campaign happens really after Thanksgiving, and Giving Tuesday kind of helps us launch it. It's a good starting point right after Thanksgiving. So the purpose of that campaign is to raise funds to not only support each of these programs we're discussing today, but also ensure they continue for many years to come. And so we, as far as goals for the fundraiser, we are aware that there's a lot of uncertainty with fundraising during this time, but generally we strive to raise about $50,000, and we already have a community donor who has pledged to match up to $20,000. So it's a great funding opportunity. And if people really want to feel like their money's being put to good use, I know they already will with our services, but their donation could be doubled with that match. So that's really, really cool.
Very, very cool indeed. And so in order to take part in this, Andrea Pena, we just need to go to the Childhaven website when the campaign starts? Yes, so Childhaven NM, so it looks like childhavennewmexico.org. And we do have a giving page there, and we'll also be doing social media blasts, promotions where people can give there. And if some people want to help with the actual organization of the campaign, and if people are looking for a volunteer opportunity, we have ambassadors. We call them ambassadors, help us send out the cards. It's essentially I guess you could consider a letter writing campaign. We have cards that we make and we send it out in the mail, and then we do things online. But if companies or families are looking to do something to help, that would be a great way to get involved during this season. Very good. And of course, they can help in COVID-safe ways, right? This is all virtual that you're talking about, pretty much, correct? Yes, and we do have an option for a virtual fundraising page that we can set up with people, and we're moving along with the times, and so it's been helpful with COVID that we had some of that stuff set up before all of this happened, so it'll make it a little bit easier. So it's really good. And I also know some people, we're getting calls already about Christmas donations, and so we've temporarily had to stop receiving used children's toys and clothing, and we do plan on accepting those very soon. We're actually actively working on that plan I'd say right now. We're getting a facility right next to, across the street from the shelter, that will help us kind of keep donations outside of the shelter during COVID, so we can let them sit outside sit in another little storage area before they go into the shelter, and we have staff sorting through everything. So it's made things a little bit difficult, but we're figuring it out. So I get calls pretty much daily, even on the weekends, if people can bring items by, and I just have to say, not yet, but soon. And we'll be announcing that on our website and social media as soon as we have the date. And as far as new items, there are some things that we can accept and have been accepting, and that information can be found also on our website. Okay. So I guess just the bottom line is that you can accept new items and maybe new articles of clothing. It's the used things that you are working on to be able to accept in the future. Yes, it just really comes down to our process with sorting. And also, as Liz mentioned, our staff, they're having to do schooling with the kids now, and that's just added a whole different element. So it's just really helpful for us if we can work with just the new items that we need. So soaps, hypoallergenic body washes. We really need some earbuds that have mics. That's a huge need with the kids being in school. And Liz, if you can comment on this, even though Farmington schools with some grades has kids back in the classroom, we are having children stay in the shelter doing school, correct?
Correct. They're going to stay doing homeschooling for the foreseeable future.
Gotcha.
So things like those earbuds with mics is huge, and we need Legos, don't we, Liz? We really need some Legos.
We do.
Okay.
All of the kids, boys and girls, everybody across the board is obsessed with Legos. So we could sure use some of those.
Okay. Well, and those can go a long way, can't they? I mean, you could buy a big bulk package of Legos, I suppose, and spread them around to everybody, couldn't you?
Yes, and it's an excellent, they like to work together on it. They make their little towns and things, and it gets everybody's hands busy and keeps them entertained for quite a while.
Very good. Well, if folks are thinking about bringing a donation down of new Legos, they can maybe do that, and they would certainly get put to use right away. But I know a lot of folks think about Childhaven at the holiday time, and so I know it's important to be able to help, and folks want to be able to spread the joy a little bit and help out with the children and the staff at the Childhaven shelter. Liz Madsen, let me ask you a little bit too. I know in the past Childhaven has certainly welcomed in volunteers from the community, and as Andrea Pena was mentioning, folks would be in helping with meals and things like that, and certainly that's all different these days. Are there still some ways for folks to be able to help in a volunteer way with things at the shelter?
We're taking it on a case-by-case basis. It sort of depends on what the numbers look like with COVID and things like that.
Okay.
But if there is an interest, please call. Please get a hold of Andrea. She will let me know. And if there is a way to do it, we will. We love having volunteers.
Got you. Andrea, that's the best thing, right? Just to call you and get on your list?
Yes, and we will go through a process through an application and references, kind of like a job application, but that just helps us find the right thing for that volunteer to do. Make sure they're plugged in the best place that maximizes their skill set. And it has obviously been different, but there I mentioned kind of some changes that are coming with our use donation process, and we don't have it totally nailed down at this point, but one idea we have is using perhaps some community volunteers to help us get our used donations organized and sorted. And so again, not yet, but soon we'll have more information on that.
Good.
But if people want to find a way to help, it may not be directly inside of the shelter, but we may be able to think of another way.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, those leaves won't rake themselves, at least not in my yard. So that could be maybe something they could do, or a paintbrush, or who knows. There's always something probably that could be done in and around the shelter, I imagine.
Yes, and we have, I'm losing count of how many buildings that we have. We had to purchase buildings along Apache Airport to have all of these different services.
Good point.
And so we have plenty of things to do. So if we get the right people plugged in, it's exciting for us to get some help in that way.
Very good. Well, there you go. And Liz Madsen, we were almost out of time, but I want to just check back with you a little bit about the kids at the shelter and what is important that the public remembers about those children at the shelter at Childhaven.
Just know that when you guys do think about these kiddos, and there were times we had pizza delivered from individuals that just wanted to provide a meal. The kids get very excited that there are people outside of this building and outside of Childhaven that know about them and that care. So just know that when it doesn't have to be a big thing, even the small things, they matter to these kids. And, they have been through a hard time, and we're doing everything that we can to lessen that and help them heal, and move forward in life. And every single time that you contribute in any way, they know it. We make sure that they know it and that they know the community is thinking about them, and we appreciate all of you.
That's wonderful. And now I imagine that we just can't stop and pick up the phone and order pizza and have it sent there for lunch. You have a bunch of pizzas maybe. We have to schedule that, don't we?
Andrea actually had a schedule going for us, and it was great. And we would let them know, especially if we did have an idea of who it was, that maybe this was a couple that was doing it, or maybe it was a business itself that, was providing it. And they loved every minute of that. So just know that it makes a big difference in their lives.
That's wonderful. So, Andrea, we can call you and maybe schedule to provide lunch or dinner sometimes for the children at Childhaven. That works best?
Most definitely. So my phone number is 505-325-5358, extension 210. That was a lot of numbers, and people probably didn't write them down. So I'll direct everybody to our website, childhavennm.org. We have a contact page. Please find the foundation link, and that would lead them to me, and I will be thrilled to get that arranged.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Great way to do it. And, of course, the Pledge for Children campaign, which will be starting up, as you mentioned, after Thanksgiving. So we'll be watching for that as well.
Yeah, and I just want to just remind people that the importance of fundraising, it's not just about how much money can we raise, it's about connecting people to our cause. And we know that there are people who are supporting these kids, and a great way to do that is financially to ensure that they can have these services not only today but for years to come.
Very important message, so always worth reminding. Thank you both very much for joining me this morning. Andrea Pena, the Childhaven Foundation, Liz Madsen, the Childhaven Director of Child Welfare. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
You're very welcome, both of you. Thanks so much. My guest from Childhaven here with me on KSJE.